Hi, so here we are for the last time, reflecting on GMT Jabber, on how the whole thing went. Uh, haven't got notes, haven't really had time to do anything more, so you'll have to forgive if I misread any of the words here because that writing is quite small and the writing isn't great. So, um, where I'm going to start is stuff that I've talked about previously, sort of how this came about, but then I'll move into what I expected, what challenges there were, and how I feel things went. So, to start off, GMT Jabber came about. The immediate impetus was the series of 2 minute short improvisations that I did throughout August last year. Um, and in itself, that project was just the latest in a sort of series of durational projects I've done over the last 11 or so years. Um, there was a sort of big period when I didn't do any, but between like 2010 and 2013, I did a few of these things, month-long things, usually not just sound, but visual, text, all kinds of stuff. So GMT Jabber itself, the series from August last year, and my previous durational projects really have all been ways of defamiliarizing my creative process, of um, setting myself challenging goals, and providing myself um, with uh, practice. I've just realised I'm not using my lav mic, so the audio isn't going to be great here. Brilliant. I will try and speak up and try and speak clearly. So, although the improvisations in August were short, they were 2 minutes. Um, I was using a similar setup to what I do for my weekly live vocal improvisations, the longer form things that are 10 minutes or more, which involves having the laptop and the light that I use on stands in the kitchen, and having this red cloth sort of um, elevated behind me, and all of that is quite time consuming to set up. Actually, I wasn't using this cloth. I was in the kitchen. I didn't have the cloth, but having the stands again and the lap mic was, yeah, it was time consuming, and that meant that those improvisations could really only happen in the evening, which meant that it sort of interfered with other things that I might want to do um, with that time. Um, so I knew coming out of August that if I was doing a similar durational series of improvisations that were frequent or daily, um, it would have to be a simpler setup. So um, now I was aware there would be a future series. I was already thinking about it. What I wasn't sure of is what form it would take. I wasn't entirely certain when it would be. I thought about something perhaps leading up to, or starting with either my birthday or with Christmas or New Year. That that seemed, it didn't really work. It seemed a bit gimmicky, and I just wasn't planning anything very clearly at that stage. It was just a vague idea in my head. Then September or October, um, I discovered that I was able to. I now have the facility to do shorts on my phone on YouTube. That had that was something that I hadn't been able to do previously, but now I could. Um, and these could be a minute long, and a minute long was ideal. It's a good short length that is challenging if you're going to do an improvisation, but it's it's not too long. And then at some point, I realised that Greenwich Mean Time (GMT), the time that we have during winter, was coming up, and this was for a limited period of time. It is about 5 months, and I realised that it runs from the end of October through to the end of March, and I realised that I could do something every day through that period. So the idea began to solidify. So basically, on each of the 147 days of this period, I would do a 1-minute improv in the morning. And going into it, I was genuinely unsure if I could actually accomplish that. But I did. I'm still kind of surprised. I was writing this section about 9 days ago, and not especially seriously, but there was sort of in the back of my head, what if I've written this and I get run over, and I can't actually complete it? But I didn't get run over. I did complete it. I stand by my 100% record of never having been flattened by a driver causing dramatic irony. So that's how GMT Jabber came about. So the next thing is, what did I expect? And there were expectations. There were some expectations that I don't mention here, which will come later in what I'm talking about. But I didn't consciously set myself any goals beyond completing the series. Obviously, that series being improvisations and in the morning and all of that stuff. So the expectations I had were essentially a small number of people would watch, a smaller number still might enjoy what I was doing, and that I also expected that I would probably get sick of the project at some point and get sick of my own bullshit long before the end, and that it would become a chore. And we'll see how that went. So 1 sec. Okay, advantage of not having a lav mic is I can drink, and there are much reduced obnoxious wet mouth sounds. So carrying on, looking into how the thing went, and starting with the challenges. So obviously, with a project of this length, this kind of ambition, there were some challenges along the way. Now, the initial challenge was me being dumb, and that was doing the improvisations from the kitchen. I'm pointing over there. You can't see it. There's a good chance you don't know what it looks like, so it's absolutely meaningless for me to gesture. But I did them from the kitchen, I think elsewhere in the flat as well, and holding the phone in my hand, which obviously means a wobbly picture. Even worse than usual, until I remembered at some point, I don't remember exactly when, that I actually have a tripod for the phone, and I also have the light that I use for my weekly improvisations, which I could set up in my which I could set up in my bedroom, which I'm also gesturing to, which you also can't see and probably don't know what it looks like. Um, and that meant that I could do each improvisation much more quickly. I could get up, I could put some stuff on my top half, uh, and just do the improvisation right there and then. Uh, and then get on with my day instead of having to get completely dressed, pick up the phone, wander through to another room, and do it that way. Um, and something, possibly my laptop is making a slightly weird noise. Also got some, who knows? Never mind. I might have an exotic insect. That would be fun. Um, so that worked. That worked fine. Getting up, switching on the light, putting the phone in the tripod, improvising, uh, often with the curtains open, so as whatever small amount of light was available was coming in. And then my old phone started to die. Basically, the battery was discharging very quickly and recharging more slowly than it should. And at that point, my laptop was also increasingly unstable, and that was definitely too, and still is. Oh, I think it's my notebook making a funny noise. My laptop, my phone was dying, the battery was dying, and the laptop was too unreliable, and it's actually still is too expensive to repair or replace. So I had to fork out quite a bit of money for a replacement phone. Cheaper than a laptop. I'd preferred not to, but it's worked well until I think the next challenge. Yeah. So um, now with my phone, my new phone, recording shorts on YouTube directly was great for weeks or for a long time anyway, until it wasn't, because uh, it distorts the sound, it and the audio runs out of sync with the image, and it's horrendous. It could be quite fun to do sort of creative and interesting things with it. Not ideal for what I wanted, but I can record directly to video. I don't get the distorted sound. I don't get the synchronization issues. It just meant it was a slightly more time consuming project that I had to record, then upload, and then share the video all over all in all places that I needed. Um, each of these challenges, particularly the last two, the old phone dying, the YouTube app mangling videos, those two came closest to derailing the project because it was just making things physically much harder. And had my phone died and I'd not been able to replace it, I would have been pretty screwed. So luckily that didn't happen. So that's the challenges in how it went. What was the response? The honest answer, before I get into whatever stuff I've written here, is I don't really know. I've had some comments from people online and in IRL. I have a vague sense of how things went. There've been some likes, but beyond that, I don't know. But all I've written. Uh, I mean, in YouTube terms, the response was beyond muted, really. It was non-existent. Certainly in terms of YouTube, this is a tiny channel. The engagement on my videos is minuscule, even when it's big for my channel. But because what I was doing was shorts, slight asterisk there. Once I had to start recording on video and then uploading to YouTube separately, sometimes I would overestimate the time. Underestimate the time. I would misjudge the time, and it might be like a minute and 1 second. And once or twice I edited the videos down, but most of the times when that happened, I didn't. So they wouldn't show up as shorts. But majority of the videos were shorts, which means they're more easily consumed. They can be viewed more often, more easily. And I think they also get a sort of greater algorithmic push. There's more priority for them. So the average view count was higher than is normal. I haven't figured out what I haven't calculated what the average view count is, but my general videos are somewhere between about 6 and maybe 20 views. The shorts, yeah, they're mostly lower. They're mostly higher. Sometimes some of them are lower than 6, but generally it's between about 14, 15, and maybe mid-20s up to mid-30s, although some have been higher. But again, YouTube terms, nothing. I'm less than a blip. I mean, occasionally, as I said, a short in terms of my channel would blow up relative to my usual views, though again, still effectively nothing. And sometimes a video kind of getting like several hundred or 1,000 views would not all the time, but sometimes that would coincide with a few comments, mostly from people. Actually, I think a lot of the time from children, baffled about what the fuck it was they were watching. And occasionally, when people leave comments like that, it is fun to piss around with the baffled groups trying to roast you and have a laugh at their expense, and so I would. But there seems to be a small cohort of people who sort of genuinely like or at least tolerate what it is that I do and come back, and I'm very grateful for that. We should all be so lucky as to be tolerated for our peculiar habits online, and at least making fart noises and belching is pretty harmless as far as online habits go. So now, very awkwardly titled section, continuing on the review of how things went. What didn't surprise me? What didn't surprise me? Because I wanted to go on to what did surprise me. Should have thought about this, but now, having said that I had very few expectations previously, what I'm about to do is list a handful of expectations that were fulfilled. except these, not all of them, but I think some of them at least relate more to the process of improvisation than to external reactions. Uh, that said, I did say I might get sick of myself, and I kind of did a couple of times. So let's start there. Let me just. I've been out for a walk today, and it's one of those days. It was starting to get to the time of year where I need to take water with me on a walk much more than I do through the winter. And I didn't, because I'm always very slow remembering what it's like at this time of year. So, starting with apparently, I cannot read this handwriting, starting apparently with times when I got sick of myself. So, as with any of my long projects that I've done, and that I include in that the weekly improvisations that I do, there are times when I do get frustrated with what I'm doing. Specifically, I sometimes feel like my range of vocal sounds is too small. I mean, also actually the kind of expressive range of my voice and the kind of variety of pitch is fairly limited. It's not quite the instrument that I would like it to be. Um, I also feel sometimes that my transitions between different sounds are too awkward. Um, I can't, with that, I can't exactly pin down um, how um, you how the transitions are too awkward, or what it is I could do to improve them. I just find them unsatisfactory. It's something I'll have to work on and analyze and figure out what's going on. Um, and at those times, I can also feel like the structures that I'm using, uh, sort of the way a piece evolves, the shape it takes. That also can be too predictable, and that every piece is essentially, every improvisation is essentially the same as the one before and the one that's going to follow it. Um, and because this is a common experience, this was something that I anticipated, and yeah, these things were all present in my head at different times. Now, um, I think the last time when I spoke about the second third of the project, um, I spoke about how I don't let sounds sit for long enough. The fact that I will get bored and, and change what I'm doing often really before it needs to. Sometimes a matter of seconds, and when something can go on for much longer. And yes, that also happened throughout. I think actually slightly less so toward the end of this. Um, I mean, certainly it did happen in the final third of this series, the last 7 weeks, but I think slightly less in the last in the sort of final couple of weeks. Um, okay, so this thing that didn't surprise me is not about the process of improvising. Um, in the previous section, when when I was talking about the comments that my videos attract. Um, those comments weren't new to me, um, especially as we got towards the end of the series. Um, that was familiar, and I guess finally, um, I knew that I would try some new things because it's a durational project. You want to shake things up. Um, you're doing it already to shake things up, but itself is it's going to become a habit, and you will need to uh, shake that up. So I would try new things. Some of those would be borrowed from other people, or other places. Um, sounds that you overhear, um, because it is necessary to play with how things work out. I've still got quite a lot of that to go through, but this morning I was struggling to get back to sleep because there was a sound rather like snoring, which I thought might be some mechanical sound outside. It might be some vehicle. It might have been some work that was going on one of the roads nearby, or it might be someone's uh, dishwasher or washing machine on another floor. As it turns out, when I went out for a walk, when I set out for my walk this morning, it actually was snoring. It was someone snoring on the other side of the wall outside the apartment. There's a sort of entrance hallway at the back, and there's a guy who lives on another floor who seems to go out, come back late. I'm presuming drunk, uh, isn't able to get in, or is not allowed in by family, and will then uh, fall asleep in um, the sort of passageway outside, or in the porch out at the front, because he's done it a few times. On this occasion, he asked me to let him in. So, are we coming to the end of how it went? Yes. Coming to the end of how it went. There's still quite a bit more to go after that. Less than I thought there was. I did write myself a plan, and a lot of it was either repetitive, or it was bullshit, uh, or it was something that might have been nice to include, but I had nothing to say about it. So, how it went, what did surprise me? What did I find surprising? First, I am actually surprised that I finished the series with so little trouble. Um, I think having so recently completed the August improvisations when I started helped. Um, uh, it meant that I was better prepared, because that was so recent. Um, and as already observed, I made my life easier with a simpler approach. Had I been doing the full setup, and especially if I'd been doing things in the evening, it would have got overbearing very quickly, and also with a problem over Christmas. Um, but I mean, even so, 147 days, around 5 months, 21 weeks. It's a long time to do a daily series, especially one covering Christmas and New Year. And then, of course, you've got the technology issues, and improvisations, having to come up with something, even if at your lowest moments you think this is all the fucking same and not very interesting. Um, Second, I'm surprised that my tiny niche channel um, saw even the modest uptick in subscribers, views, and engagement that it had. As I say, modest uptick. very, very modest in all of those, but surprising still, because this is very much a niche concern. Now, yes, a proportion of that audience, new people, new views, a proportion of that is people coming along for a laugh at the weird middle-aged guy pulling faces and making absolutely unintelligible, incomprehensible noises. And that's great. They're very welcome. Have fun. I suspect that growth has plateaued and will probably even drop back, because there simply won't be as many shorts. And that's fair. I mean, again, this is only ever going to be a minority concern. So, I mean, having finished the series, having seen this uptick, third, I'm surprised that I didn't get bored. I really didn't. So it never did become a chore. And from my perspective, although others are free to differ, and please do correct me, I think the quality remained fairly consistent throughout. This is as far as I can tell from the inside. I think there were very few improvisations that were utter shit, and there were a good number that were very strong. And like, I cannot read that. Fucking hell, and I only wrote this today. Okay, right, yes. But following on from that, I think there is a space for me to do more frequent shorts. I'm currently thinking about 2 or 3 a week. They won't be part of this series. They will just be a kind of ongoing thing as another time when I can practice, when I can improvise and do it in a format that's different from the weekly improvisations. And also, I think it has overall lifted the quality of my improvising, including the longer, regular longer form weekly improvisations. Finally, I'm surprised. This is more of a negative one. I'm not better at my presentation on video, the way that I perform, the way that things look. It is still a real cheap and grimy show here, and I wouldn't want it to be particularly slick or fancy. It would be nice if it wasn't quite as grimy, though. But also, apart from that, it's the fact that I'm not quite as comfortable on screen as I would like to be. It would be nice, not to be like an entertainer, comfortable, but also a bit less, sort of awkward, type myself in knots, looking uptight or shifty, or eyes scooting about all over the place. So, getting closer to the end. We're nearly there. Don't think it will take another half hour unless I decide to start spinning stories. What did I learn? Absolutely fucking nothing. No. Principally, I think I learned 2 things. One, that I can keep my improvisations a lot simpler, and that I have, second, that I have a lot more confidence and facility in what I do than I thought. Um, not a lot of self doubt, or possibly a high degree of delusion. You decide. Now, as far as keeping things simple, um, going back and expanding on that, what that means is I can concentrate on fewer ideas, maybe just on one or two, which I can develop through a piece, and that I can sustain a particular sound or a set of related sounds for longer than I would normally want to. Um, and that leads into a learning point from all this, that what applies in a short format can also apply in the longer improvisations. Without having done the short pieces, I don't think I would have had the confidence to try out the longer improv. I think 3 improvs ago, where I focused almost exclusively on mimicking and extemporizing around sounds that I was generating from balloons and from bouncy balls. Um, and, and and that then that sort of sounds then fed back into the improvisations. So previous to this, um, there had always been a kind of disjunct uh, between the shorts and between the longer improvs. And although they were using the same sets of skills by and large, there wasn't much um, intersection between them. They weren't really informing each other too much, and it was quite a conscious effort to switch from one mode into the other and back again. Whereas as this project progressed, and particularly in the last 7 weeks, and even more so the last 3 or 4, there was much more interpenetration of ideas from one to the other, and much easier switching of modes between the two. So that seems to be something that I've learned, I guess. And looking again at that confidence and facility, um, I think that has, as I just kind of intimated, been more evident across the last 3 weeks. Again, not just in GMT Jam, but also within the long live weekly improvisations. So that's more or less all that I have to say in review. There are still some other things to talk about. What's next, and some conclusions. So GMT Jabber is done, but as I said, short improvs will continue. Not daily, but 2, actually probably 3 times a week. I'm thinking of probably doing them Saturday, Monday, Wednesday, and Saturday. Monday, Wednesday, Saturday, I think. Maybe not every week. Maybe at sometimes, if I'm away or if it's Christmas or New Year, something like that, then maybe I won't. But we'll see. And my Friday improvisations, the regular live vocal sound improvisations, they will continue. I also have another challenging project in the pipeline. In summer, probably in late July, I will do a marathon improvisation where I attempt to keep going for multiple hours. Now, it would be great if anyone wants to drop in and join in, or perhaps call in remotely, if I can figure out a way to manage that from my laptop with my very limited tech knowledge and my very limited skill set. But I believe valuable now, and later on through other means to DM me or call or get in contact if anyone is interested in helping with that, because I will probably need to take coffee breaks and go to piss and eat and things like that. So that's what's coming up. More shorts, less frequent. Live vocal sound improvisations on Fridays continuing, and this marathon at point to be determined, probably July. So to end this, in conclusion, that's pretty much it. I am really glad, not just that I completed the series, but that I undertook it in the first place. I'm also glad it's over, but I had fun. I think it was mostly good, and I will miss it, which is why I'm planning to continue creating occasional shorts. And for anyone who is thinking of doing something similar, this is the point where traditionally, obviously, I would say, "Oh, don't do it." No, fuck it, go for it, do it, do it, do it, do it, do it now. Because at worst, you'll get sick of it and drop it, or you'll learn something from the process, and maybe someone you don't know will leave an obvious comment under it if you do it online. But no, do it. It's a great, it's a good time. Challenging yourself. I've done durational projects many times before, and so yeah. GMT Jabber, 147 days, 21 weeks, 5 months, however you want to split it. Taken me through into the darkest part of the year and out as we come into British summertime tomorrow. Delighted it's over, had a great time, and I hope it gave some people some enjoyment. So, to cut short my own waffling bullshit, I am going to end it here. I am going to make myself some dinner and get to bed later than I hoped. So, yeah, have a good evening, have a good rest of your weekend, and I will see you soon. Cheers. Bye.